And we'll just let ourselves come into the moment on the mat or whatever you're lying on, rug, mat, or even a bed. Some people aren't going to be getting on the floor. And you might notice the weight of your own body. You might notice that the weight of your own body feels heavy in certain places and lighter in others. That's fine. Just observe it and accept it. Can you allow the weight of your head just to rest back into the books that you're resting it on? Can you ask for the neck muscles to do a bit less, to soften a bit, especially through that front of the neck, under the chin, down through to the collarbones? Can we find a bit of ease there? As you're softening your neck, you might, at the front, you might find that it wants to lengthen a bit at the back. Perhaps being aware of that lengthening back of neck. It's lengthening out of somewhere between your shoulder blades, lengthening all the way up. Continue thinking out through the crown of your head, as if it was a sort of flow of energy, a bit of ease around the neck. Maybe your neck tension shows up in your jaw. Perhaps you've had some difficult conversations today, or have been holding back, wanting to bite someone's head off because you know it wasn't the thing to do. But whatever you've been doing today, there's no doubt a little bit of jaw tension. Ask for the hinge of your jaw just in front of the ear to soften, to release. Just make sure that you're not clamping your teeth together. In a perfect world, you want your lips to be closed because you're breathing through your nose, but you don't need to clamp your teeth together. They can be a little bit apart. Notice your tongue and let it rest somewhere in your mouth. Probably some of it's touching the roof of the mouth, which is fine, but don't let it be pushing into the roof of your mouth. Soften the tongue, let it rest. I'm the only one talking here, so you don't need to be active in your tongue or your jaw or your neck. Freeing the neck, allowing the weight of the head to rest onto the books or blocks. It's a really good way to start any kind of organizing, and that's what we're doing here. We are relaxing. Of course we are. It's a rest, but it's a constructive rest. So we're organizing ourselves. We're finding the right amount of tone through the body for the job in hand. And actually, it doesn't need a lot of tone right now because you're lying on the floor. Can you please become aware of the backs of your arms, the backs of your upper arms in contact with the ground? Could you send a message to the backs of your armpits to let go, so that you can allow the weight of the bones in your upper arms to drop back to the floor behind you? And as the weight of your upper arms drop back to the floor behind you, you might notice a demand for a little bit more elasticity through the chest. So we're back to asking for softening again, softening through the chest, so that the right arm can rest, so that your left arm can rest. You're not doing anything, so you can switch off those arms for a moment. And when we get a bit of quiet through the shoulder girdle, through the arms, we might then notice that lying beneath all of that is your cylindrical rib cage. And your cylindrical rib cage can move with each breath. In fact, lying beneath your shoulder blades, those ribs there in your upper back, they can move with your breath. As you're breathing in, even the ribs under your armpits are going to be moving, and as you breathe out, they'll release again. Is it easy to notice the back breathing? Or is that something that's new to you? So we talk a lot about a widening back in the world of the Alexander technique. And what we want is to not squeeze the rib cage, clamp down and shut. We want an openness through the rib cage at the back of us, a freedom, again, an elasticity between each of those ribs, those intercostals able to move, flex and release. I'd like you to say hello to your pelvis. Probably the back of it's easiest because it's in contact with the ground. Letting the back of your pelvis rest. What does that even mean? It means not interfering, not lifting the pelvis off the floor in a sneaky way by tightening in the belly. Can you send a message to your belly, to your lower abdomen, to soften, to not hang on? Sometimes this is an area of anxiety. So it's useful to soften in the belly, just to let a bit of that anxiety go. You're okay. You're here, safe, lying on the floor. No danger. You're supported. And your pelvis, the back of it especially, can feel that support. You might not be able to feel your lower back on the floor. There might be a section of it that feels a bit pulled up out of the floor, and that's because of a lumbar curve, and you're allowed to have a lumbar curve. It's what we have. We're humans. It's part of our uprightness. But you don't need to hang on through the lower back. You don't need the muscles either side of the spine to be gripping or rigid. In fact, movement is a joyful thing in the lower back. So I'd like you to send a message to your lower back that it could widen, that the muscles on the left and the muscles on the right can give up their hanging on, their gripping, and that your mind is sending an intention for the lower back to widen. And if you've been here before with me, or if you're in one of my classes, you'll know that I say quite a lot, soft belly, wide back. It's a nice little phrase. Soften in the belly and ask the back to widen, to create a bit of ease and a bit of appropriate tone. So you've been lying there for a few minutes now, and I wonder how your legs are feeling. Do you feel that the support is coming up from the floor through your feet as well as your pelvis? Or are your legs feeling a little bit like it's hard work to be in this position? You might fancy leaving your feet very well planted in the ground and having a little micro movement of a rock through the pelvis, rocking the knees a bit to the left and the right, experimenting, playing with that weight of your own legs. And just letting the movement be slow and a bit rhythmic. It's a very comforting thing to do. And then allowing them slowly to come back to stillness. Perhaps noticing any freedom in the legs from that movement. Did somewhere in your legs give up holding in that moment where you said, oh, I'm just going to move them? Had something sneakily clamped on in the leg muscles? Often it's the fronts of the thighs, thinking, oh, I've got to hang on to keep these legs like this in this parallel semi-supine position. But if we think about the knees, and if we think the knees up towards the ceiling, imagining perhaps that they're like little champagne corks popping up towards the ceiling. Or if that's a bit weird, just thinking I allow my knees to release up towards the ceiling, away from my resting pelvis. Sometimes that can add a little bit of tone through the thighs, but not tension, and allow the legs to be more easily left alone. Because that's what we're doing here. We're encouraging ourselves to leave things alone. Don't grip in the legs, don't interfere with your wonderful postural mechanisms that are supporting you right now, even in this position. Find a way of releasing some tension in the groin and the tops of your thighs, right up by your hips. And to do that, you might want to think of the backs of your upper thighs widening. Whoever thinks of those, a bit of an odd place to think, but very useful. Asking the backs of the upper thighs right up by your bum bones, right up by your sit bones, thinking of that whole area widening. You can even ask for widening through the pelvis. Obviously, it's a collection of bones, so it's not going to do an awful lot. But what it does is tone that pelvic floor. It tones the muscles within you, asking for widening through the pelvis. If your legs are struggling, keeping the knees parallel in this semi-supine position, do feel free to let the knees lean on each other in a sort of inward rest, just to give everything a bit of a break. And then in a moment, when you feel that some muscles have given up their grip, you can let your knees go back to parallel. I'll leave that up to you. So we've done a lot of thinking now down at the bottom of your body and, legs and feet. Yeah, how are your feet resting? So it's a good idea now to just head on back up to the head. And if your eyes are closed, gently open your eyes and look out into your space. Be quietly interested in the things in front of you, probably your ceiling and other things up there. Just quietly interested with your eyes moving around, reminding yourself that your eyes can move independently of your head. Because the amount of screen work we all do, the amount of driving, all sorts of funny things, we end up fixing our eyes in our heads. We don't allow them to move as much as perhaps they could. And although it's lovely to have our eyes closed when we're lying on the floor and thinking about our body, we want this skill to be something we take into our outside world. I would like you to be able to be driving your car and allowing less tension through the body, and walking along the street and feeling the support of the ground rippling up through your spine all the way up to the head. So it's good to practice with the eyes open. Practice freeing the neck, ungripping that jaw. Practice letting the head rest back on the blocks and the books. Practice allowing your shoulder girdle to rest on the floor and the upper arm bones to drop back into the floor behind you. All the while, still aware of the world around you. And I was saying at the beginning that your body is a sum of all of the parts of your history, your ancestral history, and also your own life. And we do tend to take it all for granted, our abilities, until it all goes wrong. So let's just take another moment to recognize something really positive about your physical body. whether it's the strength in your bones, the flexibility in your hips, or just that you feel good in your own body. Send that ripple of gratitude back down your life and your ancestors. And take that ripple of gratitude forward to the awesome future you that's in the making. And then come back to your rib cage, that cylindrical rib cage that starts at your spine and wraps around you, a lot of it connecting back up at the breastbone. It's like a cylindrical support that houses all of your important organs, well, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I'd like you to remember again that the back of your rib cage can move when you're breathing, as if it expands and releases with each breath. And if breath work is something you do all the time, I'd like you to just simply allow the air in through your nose and then out through your nose. A sort of quiet wave, like a gentle wave on the ocean shore. It's not got drama to it. Quietly allowing the breath through the nose, releasing the back muscles so that the ribs can expand, releasing that air back out again. It's really lovely for your nervous system. Really calming. Soften your belly and allow your back to widen. Ask your pelvis to ungrip. Take that tension down just another couple of notches around the tops of the thighs by your hips, around the knees. Be easy in your knees. Let your left foot notice the floor beneath it and all the wonderful support that's there. Let your right foot feel the support beneath it. Let that support from the floor travel up through your shin bones, back up to your easy knees. From your easy knees, let that support continue through your thighs, up into your pelvis. And know that that support continues up through the front of your spine, rippling over your curves, eventually coming up through your cylindrical rib cage to the front of your neck. Can you soften in your tongue again and let your jaw and front of neck be easy? Allow the weight of your head to rest into the blocks or the books. And become aware of the space beyond the crown of your head. Just know it's there. Nothing to do. Just know it's there. As we release the muscular tension within the body and organize ourselves with our Alexander thinking, there's a sense of lengthening that can go on, a relaxing into length. And that lengthening happens out through the crown. So we could say that in this moment, in this quiet last few moments of constructive rest, we're allowing ourselves to release out through the crown and out through your tail, out through the crown and out through your toes, resting into length. Let your back release with each breath. And let that breathing be easy, in through the nose and out through the nose. Nothing to do here, just rest. You might like to continue resting for a bit longer. Or your body might be saying to you, oh no, I think I need to get up now. And if that's the case, I would suggest that you start to give your body a little heads up that you're moving. You might like to say, well, I need to allow the pelvis to be free enough so that I can allow the knees to rock from side to side, and then start to let the knees rock from side to side. There might be more freedom needed in your neck to allow the head to be able to roll over to the side. You might need to make a conscious choice of which side you want to roll over to, so that when you get up, you're fully aware of everything that you're doing. There's no surprises, there's no shock. Sometimes it's nice to just lie on your side for a brief moment, for a couple of breaths. Noticing that freedom in your back as the ribs expand and release with each breath. And if you are getting up, you could use your arms and your widening back to press yourself back up to sitting. And if you're staying there, resting on the floor, when you do get up, do roll on your side. It's so much kinder to your neck.